Welcome, dear friend, and thank you for choosing to spend your time with us here in this quiet corner of the world. This story was made with a simple and gentle purpose in mind, to be a soft place for your mind to rest, to help you find a moment of contentment, and perhaps to guide you toward an easier and more peaceful sleep. Should this tale bring you comfort, your kindness in liking the story, subscribing to our channel, or leaving a warm comment is so very deeply appreciated. Tonight, we will be visiting the Garden of Stillness, a place tucked away from the noise and hurry of the world. Here you will discover that silence is not empty, but a soft, tangible thing that can be gathered from glowing flowers. Prepare to be enchanted by a world where peace can be woven into a cloth that warms the soul, a place of deep respite and quiet wonder, created just for you. Chapter 1, The First Thread of Silence. It is a fine and gentle thing to arrive at a place that has been waiting for you. For Olin the Weaver, the journey had been long, though not arduous, a simple unspooling of paths that led him ever onward with a quiet sense of purpose. He stood now before a simple archway, not of wood or worked material, but formed by the patient intertwining of two ancient leafy trees, their boughs meeting overhead in a show of quiet companionship. The air that drifted out from within carried the scent of damp, rich earth and something else, something clean and cool like the first breath of night. It was, he thought, with a small, gentle smile, a very proper sort of welcome. With a soft exhalation that seemed to carry the last of the road's dust from his shoulders, Olin stepped through the arch. The change was immediate and profound. The gentle sounds of the world he had just left, the distant bird and the sighing of wind in the open field, did not merely fade. They were absorbed, drawn into the thick, soft-looking greenery that covered the high earthen walls of the garden. All that remained was a low, resonant hum, a sound so deep and constant it was more a feeling in the bones, a pleasant, thrumming confirmation that this place was alive and at peace. His feet, clad in soft leather shoes, made no sound on the path of dark, springy soil as he walked forward. Before him sat a small cottage, built of a pale, smooth-looking timber and with a roof of thick, layered leaves that looked as soft as any blanket. It was a humble dwelling, yet it possessed a quiet dignity, as if it were as much a part of the garden as the trees that sheltered it. Smoke, smelling faintly of sweet herbs, curled from its small chimney in a slow, lazy spiral, a welcoming gesture against the deepening blue of the sky. A sense of homecoming settled over Olin, a feeling of having found a place he hadn't known he was searching for, and a quiet gratitude for it swelled in his chest. He pushed open the simple wooden door, which swung inward without a creak, and stepped inside. The air within was warm and held the comforting scent of chamomile and dry, clean wood. The last of the day's light filtered through a small, clean window pane, illuminating a simple room furnished with a sturdy table, a single chair, and a bed in the corner piled high with soft-looking quilts. It was a space designed for rest, for quiet contemplation, and as Olin looked around, he felt the muscles in his neck and back, tight from his travels, begin to soften and release their hold. The source of the low hum was stronger here, seeming to emanate from the very walls of the cottage and the soft earth beneath the floorboards. It was a soothing vibration, a gentle lullaby sung by the garden itself. Olin placed his traveling pack on the floor, the sound muffled by the profound quiet of the room. He ran a hand over the smooth, warm wood of the table, its surface worn by time and gentle use, and felt the day's journey truly end. He was here, in this sanctuary of stillness, and that was enough. He walked to the window and looked out into the garden. As twilight began to lay its soft, dusky cloak over the world, he saw that some of the flowers, large and bell-shaped, were beginning to emit a soft, pale, glowing light. The light pulsed gently, in perfect time with the low hum that filled the air, a slow and steady heartbeat. It was a magic of the quietest kind, a gentle wonder that asked for nothing but to be witnessed. The sight was so deeply peaceful that Olin found himself breathing in time with the pulsing light, a slow, even rhythm. A feeling of profound safety enveloped him, as warm and as tangible as the quilts on the bed. Here within these sound-softening walls, under the watch of the glowing flowers, the world felt simple and good. He felt his eyelids grow heavy, a gentle weight that was welcome and comforting. He knew with a certainty that required no thought at all that his sleep tonight would be deep and restorative. Cradled in the first soft thread of the garden's remarkable silence, he was home. And so his first evening in the Garden of Stillness was spent in simple, quiet being. He did not unpack his things or busy himself with tasks. He simply sat in the single wooden chair, feeling the gentle warmth of the cottage, listening to the deep hum of the earth, and watching the soft, breathing light of the flowers as the stars began to appear, one by one, in the clear, dark sky. It was a perfect stillness, a perfect peace. Chapter 2. The Loom of Whispering Wood. The morning came not with a jarring clamor, but with a slow, gentle brightening of the light. Olin awoke, feeling as if he had surfaced from a deep, calm sea, the sleep having washed him clean of all weariness. The low, pleasant hum of the garden was a constant, comforting presence, and the air in the cottage was fresh and cool. It was in this soft morning light, as he explored the simple corners of his new home, that he found it, tucked into an alcove, as if waiting patiently for his attention, was a loom. It was unlike any loom he had ever seen or worked upon. The frame was crafted from a single type of wood, a pale, creamy timber that seemed to hold a light of its own, its surface polished by countless hands to the smoothness of a river-washed pebble. He ran his palm along the main beam, feeling a faint, pleasant warmth radiating from it, and noted with a weaver's practiced eye the simple, ingenious construction. There were no harsh metal parts, only fitted wooden pegs and levers that looked as if they had grown into their positions, and it smelled faintly of sunshine and dry grass. It was while he was admiring the beautiful craftsmanship of the silent loom that the door opened softly. A woman stood on the threshold, her presence as gentle as the morning light. She had kind, clear eyes and a smile that seemed to be a natural part of her face, and she held a small tray with 2 steaming mugs. Her movements were slow and deliberate, creating no disturbance in the quiet air. "I am Fia," she said, her voice soft and melodic, like the cooing of a contented dove. "I am the garden's keeper. I thought you might enjoy some tea." Olin accepted the mug, the ceramic warm and pleasant against his hands. The tea smelled of chamomile and a hint of honey, a scent that was the very essence of comfort. He thanked her, his own voice feeling a little clumsy in the face of her serene grace. Fia's gaze fell upon the loom, and her smile deepened. "Ah, you have found the whisperwood loom," she said. "It has been waiting a long time for a weaver's hands." She explained that the loom was as old as the garden itself, made from the wood of a tree that drinks in silence, and that it was made for a very special kind of weaving. Fia invited him to walk with her, and Olin followed her out into the dew-kissed garden. The ground was soft and cool beneath his feet, and the air was alive with the scent of damp earth and blooming things. She led him not along the main path, but down a smaller, winding trail that went deeper into the garden's lush heart, to a place where broad-leafed ferns grew in dense, luxurious clumps. Here, in the deep shade cast by the heavy fronds, the air felt different. It was thicker, cooler, and the garden's hum was more pronounced. "The quiet here is special," Fia murmured, her voice barely disturbing the stillness. She reached a hand out, not to touch anything, but simply holding it in the cool, shaded air. "Can you feel it? The silence here is not empty. It gathers." Olin, intrigued, held his own hand out. At first, he felt only the coolness of the shade, but as he quieted his mind and simply focused on the sensation, he began to notice something else. There was a substance to the air, an almost imperceptible texture, like the finest, most delicate strands of carded wool floating against his skin. He looked at Fia with wide, wondering eyes. She simply nodded, her kind expression full of understanding. "In most places, silence is just the absence of noise," she explained softly. "Here, it is a thing in itself, a thing of peace. It pools in the quietest places like water, waiting to be gathered." This, she told him, was the thread that the whisperwood loom was meant to weave. It was a thought so wonderfully strange, so gently magical, that Olin could only stand in awe. He spent the rest of the day with Fia, simply observing. He learned to see the garden through her eyes, to notice the subtle ways it lived and breathed. He saw how the silence was thickest in the cups of the bell-shaped flowers, and how it lay like a soft blanket over the still surface of the central spring. It was a day of quiet learning, of gentle discovery, a slow unfolding of a peaceful magic that was woven into the very fabric of this incredible place. And as he sat on the porch that evening, sipping another cup of Fia's tea, he looked at the loom inside and understood. It was not just a tool for making cloth. It was an instrument for shaping peace itself. Chapter 3. Gathering the Quiet. The next day, Fia led Olin to a secluded glade where the flowers he had seen the first night grew in abundance. He now knew them as hush blossoms, and in the daylight, their pale bell-shaped heads were bowed as if in slumber, their inner light dormant. The air around them was thick with the garden's peace, and carried the clean, calming scent of chamomile. Fia knelt beside one of the largest blossoms, her movements an embodiment of gentle reverence, and gestured for Olin to join her. "The gathering must be done with great care," she whispered, her voice a soft texture in the profound quiet. "The silence is a gift from the garden. We must not be greedy or hurried." She demonstrated, showing him how to cup his hands and hold them just above the opening of the flower's bell. She explained that one must not touch the soft, thick petals, for that would disturb the blossom, and the quiet would simply dissipate like morning mist. Her hands moved with a slow, practiced grace, a gentle dance in the air. She then cupped her hands and slowly, carefully, lowered them into the space within the blossom spell. She held them there for a long moment, her eyes closed, her breathing slow and even. When she drew her hands back out, Olin saw it. Cradled in her palms was a shimmering, almost invisible substance, a wispy skein of what looked like captured starlight or spun moonlight. It swirled with a slow, gentle energy, yet it was so light it seemed to have no weight at all. This was the tangible silence of the garden. Olin felt a sense of profound wonder. He knelt by another hush blossom, his heart beating a little faster with gentle anticipation. He mimicked Fia's movements, cupping his hands and clearing his mind of all but the simple intention of gathering. He lowered his hands into the flower's cool, quiet space. He felt it instantly, a cool, soothing touch against his palms, a texture softer than silk, lighter than a feather. It was a feeling of pure, undiluted peace settling into his hands. He held his breath, drawing his hands back slowly, and there it was, a small, shimmering cloud of quiet cradled in his own palms. Fia gave him a small, beautiful spindle carved from the same pale whisperwood as the loom. It was perfectly balanced and smooth to the touch. She showed him how to touch the tip of the spindle to the gathered silence and begin to turn it. As he did, the shimmering substance seemed to cling to the wood, drawing itself into a single fine, continuous thread that glowed with a faint, silvery light. The spindle made no sound as it turned, only the gentle, rhythmic motion of his hands shaping the quiet into a form he could use. He spent the entire afternoon in the glade of hush blossoms, moving from one flower to the next, his movements becoming surer and more graceful with each gathering. He filled one small spindle, then another, the process becoming a calming meditation. There was only the feeling of the soft soil beneath his knees, the cool touch of the silence on his skin, the clean scent of the blossoms, and the silent, rhythmic turning of the spindle. He was not working. He was participating in the garden's gentle magic, becoming a part of its peaceful cycle. As evening approached and the hush blossoms began to awaken, their inner light starting to glow and pulse, Fia brought him a basket lined with soft leaves to carry his filled spindles. He looked at the half-dozen spools, each wound with the incredible shimmering thread of pure silence. They felt cool and light in the basket, and they seemed to hum with the same gentle energy as the garden itself. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment, not of pride, but of quiet gratitude. That night, as he sat in his cottage, the small collection of spindles on the table beside him, he felt a new connection to this place. He had not merely observed its magic, he had touched it, held it, and helped to give it a new shape. The threads of quiet seemed to absorb the soft light from the window, glowing with a gentle radiance that filled the room with an even deeper sense of calm. He looked towards the waiting loom, his heart full, ready to begin the next, most wonderful step of his journey. Chapter 4. The First Tapestry. With the first light of dawn painting the cottage in soft hues of gray and rose, Olin rose and approached the whisperwood loom. His collection of spindles filled with the thread of silence rested in their leafy basket, their faint shimmer a quiet promise. He felt a calm sense of purpose as he began the patient work of preparing the loom, his hands moving with the familiar steady rhythm of a weaver. He took a thread of simple undyed linen for the warp, its natural earthy texture a perfect foundation for the magic he was about to weave. The process of dressing the loom was a meditation in itself. Each thread was handled with care, drawn through the heddles in the reed, creating the grid upon which his tapestry would be born. The loom, true to its name, remained completely silent, the wooden parts moving against each other with a soft, frictionless grace. There was only the whisper of the linen thread settling into place and the sound of Olin's own slow, contented breathing, a rhythm that had already attuned itself to the garden's gentle hum. When the warp was prepared, he selected the first spindle of silent thread. It felt cool and alive in his hand. He wound a length of it onto the shuttle, a smooth boat-shaped piece of whisperwood that fit perfectly in his palm. He took a deep, calming breath, and then he began to weave. He passed the shuttle through the shed, the space between the raised and lowered warp threads, and its passage was utterly soundless. He drew it out the other side and gently beat the new thread into place with the reed, and the motion made only a soft, satisfying sigh, like a leaf settling on the ground. A pattern began to emerge, not from a drawing, but from the memory of the garden held within his heart. The first rows of silent thread created a foundation of deep peace, a shimmering silvery field that seemed to drink in the light. Then, using threads dyed with gentle pigments from berries and leaves, he began to add color. He wove the deep, soft green of the ferns, the dark, rich brown of the damp earth, and the pale, creamy white of the hush blossom's petals. The thread of silence was the weft, the very fabric of the image, binding all the colors together in its tranquil embrace. As the tapestry grew, inch by silent inch, a remarkable thing began to happen. The image he was weaving, a scene of the hush blossom glade at twilight, began to emanate a palpable feeling of peace. It was more than a visual representation. It was an emotional one. A gentle warmth began to radiate from the woven fabric, a comfort that settled over Olin like the softest blanket. The very air in the cottage seemed to grow warmer, softer, and more still. His mind, already calm, became even quieter, all thoughts fading away into a simple, blissful awareness of the present moment. He worked through the day, taking breaks only to stretch or to sip the tea Fia quietly left for him on the porch. The world outside the cottage faded away. His entire being focused on the gentle, rhythmic dance of weaving. The shuttle gliding back and forth, the soft press of the reed, the slow emergence of a scene of profound beauty and peace. He felt no fatigue, only a growing sense of wonder and fulfillment. He was not just creating an object, he was weaving a sanctuary. By the time evening arrived and the real hush blossoms outside his window began their gentle, pulsing glow, the tapestry was nearly complete. He looked at his work, at the woven scene of the garden that now seemed to glow with a light of its own, a soft, internal luminescence captured from the silent thread. The warmth and peace it radiated filled the entire room, a tangible presence of deep, restorative calm. He wove the last few threads, his movement slow and reverent, and then, with a final soft sigh of the reed, the work was done. Chapter 5. The Gift of Woven Peace. The finished tapestry now hung on the main wall of the cottage, transforming the simple space. It was not merely a decoration, it was a window into the soul of the garden. The woven scene of the hush blossom glade at twilight seemed to breathe with a life of its own. The silvery threads of silence captured and softened the light, giving the image a dreamlike depth, while the gentle warmth it radiated could be felt from every corner of the room, a constant, comforting presence. Olin felt a sense of contentment so deep and pure that it settled in his very bones. It was the quiet joy of a creator who has worked in perfect harmony with his materials. A feeling of completion that asked for nothing more. The journey to this garden, the gentle lessons from Fia, the patient hours spent gathering and spinning and weaving, had all led to this. A tangible piece of peace, a cloth woven from the very essence of tranquility. He felt restored, whole, as if some quiet, empty space within him had been filled. Fia came to the cottage as the sun was setting, bringing with her a small pot of chamomile tea and 2 mugs. She stood before the tapestry for a long moment, her expression one of serene appreciation. She did not offer praise with loud words, for none were needed in this quiet place. Instead, she simply reached out a hand and let her fingers hover just above the surface of the tapestry, feeling the gentle warmth and the profound calm it emanated. A soft, knowing smile touched her lips. "You have woven its heart," she said, her voice full of warmth. They took their tea out onto the small porch, settling into 2 simple wooden chairs as twilight folded its gentle wings around the garden. The air grew cool, carrying the clean scent of the awakening hush blossoms, whose rhythmic pulsing lights began to dot the growing dimness. From the open door of the cottage, the gentle peace of the tapestry flowed out, mingling with the natural tranquility of the garden, creating a space of almost impossible serenity. They sat together in comfortable silence, a shared quiet that was deeper and richer than any conversation. They sipped their warm tea, the sweet floral steam rising to meet the cool evening air. There were no grand thoughts or pronouncements, only a simple shared gratitude for the moment. Gratitude for the garden, for the gift of its silence, for the warmth of the tea, for the quiet companionship. It was a peace that needed no words to be understood. Olin looked from the glowing tapestry within the cottage to the glowing blossoms in the garden. He saw now that they were one and the same, different expressions of the same gentle magic. One was grown from the earth, the other woven by hand, but both offered the same gift of deep, restorative calm. He felt the last vestiges of any worldly worry simply dissolve, leaving behind only a profound sense of being exactly where he was meant to be. As the first stars appeared in the deep velvet of the sky, Olin felt a gentle wave of sleepiness wash over him. It was not a feeling of exhaustion, but a soft, welcome invitation to rest. He knew that the peace of the tapestry, the peace of the garden, would be with him as he slept, a gentle guardian of his dreams. He gave Fia a small, thankful smile, which she returned with a gentle nod. The gift of woven peace was not his alone to keep, but a blessing to be shared, radiating quietly out from this small, hidden sanctuary.